Welcome to this sacred gathering.
The spirits are with us.
The sun rose gently over the red earth of the village, casting golden light across the huts and farmlands. In the morning air, voices of women singing at the river mingled with the laughter of children chasing each other between the trees. It was a village alive with rhythm, faith, and tradition. At the heart of it all was Naya. She was a young girl whose presence carried an unspoken power. Her skin was deep and glowing like polished ebony, her eyes bright as the morning star. But it was not only her beauty that caught the eye, it was her spirit. She greeted the old with respect, comforted crying children, and worked beside her mother with diligence. People often said when Naya entered a space, it felt lighter, as if the ancestors themselves walked with her. Some whispered she was destined for greatness, others simply adored her kindness. Wherever she went, she left an imprint of peace. But not everyone saw Nia as a blessing. Living under the same roof was her aunt Zalika, her late mother's sister. Zalika carried herself with pride, draped in bright cloths and beads, her face carefully painted each day. Outwardly, she spoke with sweetness, praising Nia for her beauty and cleverness. But in her heart, a storm brewed. Each time she saw villagers admiring Nia, jealousy pierced her chest. Each compliment Naya received sounded to her like an insult against herself. Though she hid it behind smiles, bitterness simmered inside her like water over a hidden flame. Zalika longed for the day when she would be honored, when people would speak her name with awe. Yet, whenever she looked at Nia, she feared the girl's light would outshine her forever. In those days, rumors began spreading through the village about the ancestral ritual soon to come. Every generation, the ancestors chose one among the people to become the crowned one, a leader and guide, carrying wisdom and authority to unite the tribe. The selection was no ordinary matter. It was said the spirits would speak through fire, wind, and vision, revealing the chosen in ways no human could deny. The whispers grew louder each day. It will be Naya. Surely, the ancestors will crown her. Farmers at the fields spoke of her hands blessing their harvests. Mothers at the river recalled how she comforted their children. Even the elders, slow to praise, admitted that Nia's presence was unlike any other. Zalika heard these words again and again, and each time her heart sank deeper into envy. She forced herself to laugh with the people, agreeing that Nia was special, but inside, her thoughts were sharp and dark. If she is crowned, what will become of me? Zalika wondered, will I always be the shadow while she shines? Life in the village carried on with its rhythm, yet beneath the harmony, an invisible thread of tension grew. On one quiet evening, Nia sat by the fire outside her home. The flames flickered across her face, illuminating her innocence and quiet strength. She spoke softly to her mother about her hopes and fears. Though she was admired by many, she remained humble, unsure if she could ever live up to the expectations placed upon her. Her mother touched her shoulder with warmth. The ancestors see your heart, my child. Do not fear their judgment. What is meant for you will come to you. Behind them, Zalika listened from the shadows. She smiled politely when they turned toward her, but her smile was brittle, hiding the turmoil within. Each tender word spoken to Naya felt like a blade. The days passed, and signs seemed to favor Naya more and more. When she sang with the children, their laughter echoed through the air like music. When she worked in the fields, the crops seemed to stand taller. When she visited the elders, they nodded and whispered blessings under their breath. Zalika watched it all, her envy growing heavier each day. She told herself she was being overlooked, forgotten, even insulted. At night, when the village slept, she stared into the fire of her hearth, her mind restless. She clenched her fists, whispering into the silence, "She cannot take everything from me. I will not let her." And so, while the villagers dreamed of the day the ancestors would choose their new crowned one, a darker dream was growing in Zalika's heart. Naya remained unaware, living in innocence, her laughter echoing like a song across the fields. She trusted her aunt, loved her deeply, and never imagined that the same hands that braided her hair and served her meals were being tightened into fists of envy. The harmony of the village was a fragile illusion. Beneath it lay a storm that would soon shatter the peace and scar Nia's life forever. The night was heavy with silence. A faint wind moved through the trees, carrying the scent of smoke from cooking fires that were slowly dying out. Most of the village was already asleep, but inside Zalika's hut, the fire still burned bright. She sat alone, her eyes fixed on the pot simmering over the flames. Her hands shook as she stirred, not from weakness but from the storm inside her chest. For weeks she had wrestled with her envy, trying to bury it, trying to smile through it. But every whisper of Nia's name, every glance of admiration the villagers gave her niece, had only sharpened the blade in her heart. Tonight, her breaking point had come. "Better scars than a crown," Zalika muttered, her voice trembling with rage. "Better ashes than glory." The boiling liquid hissed, bubbles rising like curses from the depths. She clenched her fists, convincing herself this was the only way to secure her place. If Nia's beauty was gone, the ancestors would never choose her. The village would turn their eyes to me. Meanwhile, Nia lay awake in her small room. She had spent the day helping the women at the river, and was tired, but her mind wandered. She thought of the whispers about the ritual. She thought of her mother's gentle words. "What is meant for you will come to you." Those words gave her comfort, yet they also filled her with fear. She did not feel ready for such responsibility. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. Nia, Zalika called from outside. "Come, child, I have something for you." Nia rose quickly. She trusted her aunt completely. After all, Zalika had cared for her since her mother passed. She wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and stepped into the cool night. The stars shone overhead, but the shadows seemed thicker than usual. Inside Zalika's hut, the fire glowed brightly. The pot sat over the flames, its contents bubbling. Nia stepped closer, smiling gently. "What is it, auntie?" she asked, her voice soft and innocent. Zalika forced a smile. "A drink to help you rest. You must be strong for the days ahead." Nia's heart warmed. Her aunt had always known how to comfort her. She moved nearer, trusting, unaware of the danger coiling in the room. Then it happened. With a sudden, almost inhuman cry, Zalika grabbed the pot and flung it forward. The liquid, hot, scalding, merciless, splashed across Nia's face and neck. The world exploded in pain. Nia screamed, a sound so piercing it seemed to tear the night apart. She fell to the ground, clutching her face as fire consumed her skin. The smell of burning flesh filled the hut, thick and choking. Her cries shook the walls, echoing into the night air. Lika stood frozen for a moment, her chest heaving. She had imagined satisfaction, victory. Instead, what she felt was something darker. Fear and madness twined together. But she pushed the hesitation aside. It had to be done, she told herself. Now no one will choose her. The village awoke in panic. Neighbors rushed out of their huts, carrying torches. Mothers held their children close as the screams filled the night. When they reached Zalika's hut, they found Nia collapsed on the floor, her shawl soaked, her hands clawing at her face in agony. Her skin blistered and cracked under the fire's cruel touch. "Ancestors, protect us," someone cried. "Bring water," shouted another. The villagers crowded around, horror carved into their faces. Some wept openly at the sight of the once radiant girl, now writhing in pain. Others whispered in fear, "Her beauty is gone." Was it the ancestors' curse? No, it was Zalik. But Zalika fell to her knees, clutching her chest, pretending to sob. "Oh Nia, my poor child, it was an accident. I did not mean." Her voice cracked with false sorrow, but her eyes gleamed with secret triumph. The villagers carried Nia to her home, pouring cool water over her wounds, wrapping her in cloth. Her cries quieted into broken sobs, her body trembling with shock. Her once bright eyes, filled with innocence and trust, now held only pain and betrayal. That night, whispers spread faster than fire. Some pitied her, saying, "She is cursed, her gift is gone." Others stepped back in fear, unwilling to be near her. The same villagers who once praised her beauty now turned away, as though scars had stripped her of worth. And as the dawn broke, the girl once admired by all lay hidden in shadows, her face wrapped in cloth, her heart shattered by the hand she had trusted most. Zalika watched from afar, her mask of sorrow still fixed in place. Inside, she whispered to herself, now, the crown will be mine." But what she did not know was that her crime had not gone unseen. The ancestors were watching. The days after the fire dragged on like endless nights. Nia lay on a woven mat, her body trembling with fever and pain. Her face was hidden beneath layers of cloth soaked in herbs and oils. But nothing could hide the truth. The girl who once shone like sunlight now lived under shadows. Her skin burned with every breath. At times, the pain was so sharp she thought she would not survive another hour. Yet, worse than the wounds was the silence that filled her heart. She could still hear her own screams in the dark corners of her mind, and every time she remembered her aunt's hands, steady and deliberate, lifting that pot. She felt her chest break all over again. The village had tried to help at first. Women brought ointments, elders whispered prayers, children peeked through the doorway with wide, fearful eyes. But as the days turned into weeks, the visits grew fewer. Their pity turned into avoidance. Some muttered cruel words. She was cursed. The ancestors have turned from her. She will never be the same. Nia heard every whisper, each one cut deeper than the fire had. She stopped leaving the house. She covered her face whenever her mother urged her to step outside. She could not bear the stares, the gasps, the way eyes slid away, as if looking at her was painful. The girl who had once carried joy into every corner of the village now hid like a shadow, shrinking smaller with every passing day. Children who once sang her name now mocked her behind their hands. Friends who once sought her out no longer came to visit. Loneliness closed around her like a cage. When she caught her reflection in a bowl of water one morning, she dropped it in horror. The scars stretched across her face, raw and twisted, where once her smooth skin had glowed. She pressed her hands to her face and wept until her throat ached. Who am I now? She thought. If my beauty is gone, what do I have left? Through it all, Zalika was there. She sat beside Nia's mat, wiped her brow, and spoke with practiced tenderness. My poor child, she would say, brushing Nia's hair back. Do not be afraid. You are still loved. Her voice was soft, but her eyes held quiet satisfaction. Each day that Nia hid herself, each tear that fell, strengthened Zalika's secret confidence. No one would ever crown a girl who looked like this. The path was opening for her to the villagers. Zalika appeared the picture of devotion. She was praised for her sacrifice in caring for her broken niece. She lowered her eyes humbly, as though the burden was heavy, while inside, she savored the admiration. Nia, however, felt the weight of despair pressing harder with each passing day. She stopped singing. She stopped smiling. Even her prayers grew weak. Nights were the worst, when the house fell silent and she lay awake, staring into the darkness behind her bandages. The thoughts that whispered then were darker than anything her aunt could say aloud. Maybe it would be better if I were gone. Maybe this life is over for me. The fire did not kill me, but what if it should have? Her heart sank lower and lower until even the memory of who she once was felt like a distant dream. Outside, life in the village continued. The people worked, laughed, and prepared for the upcoming ritual that would soon decide their future leader. But for Nia, time seemed frozen. She was trapped between the girl she had been and the scarred reflection she now carried. Her spirit, once so bright, flickered weakly like a dying flame. She no longer believed she had a place among her people, no longer believed the ancestors could look at her and see anything but ruin. And in the shadows of the hut, Zalika smiled softly to herself, whispering words Nia could not hear. The crown will not sit on your head, child. It will be mine. The night was heavy with silence. A storm gathered on the horizon, and the air in the hut pressed against Nia's chest like a weight. She lay awake, her face hidden, her heart hollow. Her mother had long since fallen asleep, and even Zalika's steady breathing in the other room was faint. But Nia could not sleep. Thoughts clawed at her. The whispers of the villagers echoed louder in the darkness. Cursed, ruined, forgotten. Each word replayed like a drumbeat in her mind. Tears slid silently onto her pillow. She clutched the blanket against her chest, aching with a pain that no salve could soothe. For the first time, she whispered into the darkness, "Ancestors, if you see me, why did you leave me?" The words cracked in her throat. She had always trusted the spirits of her people, always felt their presence in the rustle of leaves and the warmth of the sun. But now she felt abandoned, cast aside like broken pottery. Her voice grew more desperate. "Why did you let her do this to me? What is left for me now? Tell me, who am I without my face?" A hush fell, deeper than silence. The air shifted. The flickering flame of the oil lamp beside her bed stretched tall, as though drawn by unseen breath. The shadows around her swayed and then stilled, heavy with unseen power. Nia sat up slowly, fear prickling her skin. The air was no longer empty. It was alive. And then, she heard them. Whispers, layered and strong voices, both ancient and near. They did not come from outside the hut but from within the air itself, surrounding her, filling her bones with sound. "Nia, child of fire, child of light, we have not left you." Her breath caught. She clutched her bandaged face, trembling. Who speaks? "We are your ancestors. We watched as the fire touched you, as envy struck at you. Do not mistake pain for abandonment. We were there. We carried your breath when you thought it would fail. We shielded your spirit when despair sought to claim it." Tears filled her eyes, spilling freely. "But look at me," she cried. "I am ruined. No one sees me anymore. Even I cannot see myself." The voices deepened, rising like a storm rolling across the plains. "Your beauty was never your crown. Your worth was never your skin. The fire has marked you, yes, but it has not ended you. It has revealed you. Within these scars lies a strength greater than vanity, greater than envy, greater than fear." The lamp's light flared, casting patterns across the walls like ancient symbols. Nia felt warmth pour through her body, not burning but healing, as though unseen hands touched her heart. "Rise, Nia, you are chosen. The same flame that scarred you will crown you. Through ashes, you will lead. Through pain, you will heal others. The mark you carry is not shame, it is proof. Proof that you were tested and endured." Her sobs turned into trembling gasps. She pressed her hands to the mat, her whole body shaking as the words filled her. A flicker of something long buried stirred inside her chest. Hope, the voices softened, weaving like a lullaby. "Your aunt's envy sought to destroy you, but envy cannot touch destiny. Trust what we have spoken. Walk in the light of your scars. When the time comes, the crown will find you." The flame lowered, steady and calm. The air grew still again. Silence returned, but it was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. Nia sat frozen, staring at the lamp. She touched her bandages, but for the first time, she did not recoil. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered, "If this is my destiny, I will not run." The storm outside broke at that moment, rain drumming on the roof, thunder echoing across the sky. But within the hut, Nia felt calm. For the first time since the fire, she believed she was not alone. Morning broke with the scent of rain lingering in the air. The storm had washed the village clean, and the ground glistened beneath the pale dawn. Nia rose from her mat, her movements slow but steady. Something within her had shifted during the night. She no longer felt like a prisoner of her scars. Her mother noticed it first. "Child," she whispered as she set down a bowl of porridge, "your eyes, they look different." Nia only smiled faintly, though her lips trembled. She felt the truth of her mother's words. The voices of the ancestors still echoed in her spirit, and though the scars remained, she carried them now as proof that she had not been abandoned. Life in the village, however, was less gentle. When Nia stepped outside for the first time in many weeks, all eyes turned to her. Farmers paused with their hoes mid-strike. Women drawing water slowed their hands. Children froze mid. The whispers began instantly. "Look at her. She dares to come out again. Does she not know her face will frighten the children?" Each word pierced her, but she did not lower her gaze. For the first time, she met their stares head. The villagers expected shame, perhaps tears, but instead they saw something else, a quiet strength in the way she walked, a fire still alive behind her wounded face. Even so, some turned away, unwilling to accept her. Others shook their heads in pity, and from a distance Zalika watched, her jaw tight. The trials began subtly. The elders, preparing for the sacred season when a leader would be chosen, announced a series of tasks to test strength, wisdom, and spirit. All eligible young women were invited to participate. Zalika, radiant in her pride, immediately joined. The villagers whispered that she was the likely choice now. But when Nia also stepped forward, silence fell. The crowd rippled with disbelief. "She cannot be serious. She will shame herself. She is too broken." Zalika pressed a hand to her chest and feigned concern. "Nia, perhaps it is better you rest. These trials are demanding. I would not wish to see you struggle." Nia's reply was calm, her voice steady. "If the ancestors still see me, then I will not hide from their test." The elders exchanged glances. They could not deny her. Tradition required that all who came forward be allowed, and so it was decided. Both Nia and Zalika would face the trials, side by side. The first challenge was of endurance. The young women were tasked to carry heavy jars of water from the river to the village square under the burning sun. Zalika moved with ease, her beauty untouched by sweat. Nia, though trembling, pressed on with steady determination. Her scars glistened, her breath grew ragged, but she did not stop. The crowd murmured, "She does not give up, even with her face. Her spirit is strong." The second trial tested wisdom. Each candidate was asked to interpret signs left in stones, shells, and feathers arranged by the elders. Zalika gave confident answers, polished and proud, but hollow. Nia, remembering the ancestors' words, spoke softly of fire and rebirth, of scars that teach strength. Her answers struck the elders deeply, though some villagers scoffed. The third trial tested compassion. A wounded goat was brought before them. The task was not to heal it, but to see how they treated it. Zalika wrinkled her nose, touching it only briefly before stepping back. Nia, however, knelt, stroking its trembling body, whispering to it as if it were her own wounded soul. She bound its leg gently, her touch steady despite the murmurs behind her. Each trial became not only a test, but a mirror. Where Zalika shone outwardly, Nia's light emerged inwardly. Though many still doubted, some began to see the fire within her scars. But Zalika did not sit idle. Each night, her envy grew sharper. She whispered poison into the ears of those who still doubted Nia, reminding them of her ruin, fueling their fear. Yet no amount of whispers could erase what was happening. Nia was changing. The girl who once hid from her reflection was now standing before her people, scarred but unbroken, carrying herself with the strength that no fire could take away. The trials were far from over, but for the first time, the village began to ask themselves a dangerous question, one Zalika feared most. What if the crown did not belong to beauty? What if it belonged to fire? The night of the ancestral ritual arrived, heavy with anticipation. The moon, full and white, hung over the village like a watchful eye. Drums echoed across the hills, their deep rhythm summoning every soul to the sacred clearing. Fires blazed in tall clay bowls, casting wild shadows that danced across the faces of the gathered crowd. This was the night the ancestors would choose the crowned one, the leader not only of the people but of their spirits, their prayers, their future. The villagers whispered among themselves as they gathered. It must be Za. She is strong, she is beautiful. But Nia, look how she has endured. Scars cannot lead us. It would bring shame. Or maybe, it is a sign. The air trembled with uncertainty, with envy, with hope. At the center of the clearing stood the great ancestral flame. Its fire burned unnaturally bright, said to respond only to the spirit chosen by the ancestors. Before it, a carved stone altar waited, empty, for the head the crown would rest upon. The elders called for silence. Their voices rose in unison. Spirits of the fire, shadows of the ancestors. Tonight we bring before you the daughters of this village. Show us who carries your blessing. Zalika stepped forward first. She was draped in shimmering cloth, gold beads catching the firelight. Her hair was braided high, her face painted with confidence. She lifted her chin, addressing the crowd with a smile that masked her trembling heart. Great ancestors, she declared, I offer myself as your vessel. I have strength, beauty, and wisdom to guide our people. Choose me, and I will not fail you. The crowd murmured approval. She looked radiant, powerful, undeniable. Zalika's chest swelled with pride. She turned toward the flame, expecting it to leap toward her as a sign, but instead, the fire sputtered. The flames shrank, hissing as if repelled. Then, with a sudden gust, the bowl cracked in two, and smoke spilled across the clearing. The ground shuddered beneath their feet. Gasps rose from the villagers. It rejects her. The spirits are angered. Zalika's smile faltered, but she forced tears to her eyes. Forgive me, ancestors, she whispered, pretending humility. Yet inside, terror clawed at her chest. Then the elders turned to Nia. She stood at the edge of the circle, wrapped in a plain cloth, her face still veiled. Her steps were hesitant, but the whispers of the ancestors still rang in her soul. Her scars burned not with pain, but with a strange warmth, as though the fire itself longed for her. The villagers watched uneasily. Some pitied her, others sneered. She should not try. It will only shame her further. But then, the wind shifted. The flames bent toward her, flickering eagerly. The elders nodded. Step forward, child. Nia's heart pounded. She touched her veil, uncertain, to reveal her face here. Before them all her shame, her scars was more terrifying than the fire itself. For a moment, she nearly turned back. But then, deep inside, she heard the ancestor's voice again. Your scars are not curses. They are the crown itself. Her hands trembled as she pulled away the veil. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Her face, burned and twisted, shone in the firelight. Some turned away in horror. Others froze, unable to look anywhere else. Nia lowered herself before the altar. Ancestors, she whispered, voice breaking but strong. If you still see me, take me as I am, not for beauty, not for strength alone, but for the spirit that survived the fire. The silence was broken by a roar of flame. The ancestral fire leaped high into the sky, spiraling like a serpent. Sparks rained down, glowing embers that circled Nia. The villagers cried out, shielding their eyes. When the flames touched her, they did not burn. Instead, they traced across her scars, glowing brighter and brighter until her face shone with patterns like sacred markings, tribal symbols of fire and resilience. Her wounds, once thought curses, blazed as holy signs. The crowd fell to their knees. It is her. The fire has chosen. The scars are the crown. The elders raised their staffs, voices trembling. Naya, child of fire, you are the crowned one. Zelika's cry cut through the night. No, this cannot be. She is cursed. She is ruined. She rushed forward, her face twisted with desperation. You blind fools. She is weak. She is broken. It should have been me. But as she neared the circle of fire surrounding Naya, the flames roared up, blocking her path. Zelika screamed, stumbling back as sparks scorched the edge of her robes. The villagers drew away from her, whispers turning sharp. She tried to take what was not hers. The fire knows her. Envy, the spirits see her crime. The flames began to form shapes, faces of ancestors glaring down at Zelika. Their voices thundered in the air. Envy consumes her. Her hands are stained with betrayal. She harmed the chosen blood. The crowd erupted in shock. Zelika fell to her knees, tears streaking her painted face. No, please, forgive me. But the fire's judgment was clear. The elders spoke. Zelika, you are stripped of honor. You are banished to the outer lands, cursed until your envy dies. The villagers turned their backs as Zelika wept, her cries fading into the night. She stumbled into the shadows, her dream of power consumed by the very fire she had tried to control. In the center of it all, Nia stood tall. The flames softened, encircling her like a mantle of light. She lifted her head, her eyes shining with both sorrow and strength. Envy destroyed her, she said quietly, voice carrying across the silent crowd. But I will not let envy poison me. I will lead with forgiveness, with strength, with the fire that scars and heals alike. The villagers bowed their heads. For the first time, they did not see her scars as ruin. They saw them as holy marks of survival, proof of destiny. The drums beat again, this time not of fear, but of triumph. The crowned one had risen, not from beauty untouched, but from fire endured. The night of fire passed into memory, but its glow remained in the hearts of the people. By dawn, word had spread beyond the village. Messengers carried the story to neighboring clans. A young woman scarred by envy, crowned by the ancestors, chosen through flames. Nia, once hidden in shame, now walked openly through the village. Children no longer mocked her. They ran to her, reaching for her hands, whispering that she carried light. Elders bowed their heads in respect, some with tears glistening in their eyes. For the first time, she saw no pity in their faces, only reverence. In the weeks that followed, Naya began to lead. She was not the loudest voice, nor the most commanding presence, but her spirit carried weight. Her scars, glowing faintly whenever firelight touched them, became symbols of resilience. The villagers began to say, "The crowned one carries our pain upon her face, so we may remember to endure." When disputes rose among families, Naya listened with patience, offering judgment rooted not in anger but in compassion. When children fell ill, she visited their huts, sitting at their sides, speaking soft prayers until they healed. Her presence itself seemed to draw sickness away, and when storms threatened the fields, the people swore they saw the winds soften when she raised her hands. They began to believe her scars were not just marks of suffering, but channels of ancestral power. Yet Naya's heart remained humble. In quiet moments, she would sit by the river's edge, gazing at her reflection. At first, her eyes lingered on the uneven lines of her face, the skin that fire had reshaped, but slowly, she began to see differently. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky blazed with red, she leaned close to the water. The reflection, staring back, was not ruin. It was crown marked with symbols of survival, traced by fire itself. For the first time, Naya smiled at her own face. "You carried me through," she whispered, not only to the reflection, but to the ancestors who had never left her. Her legacy began to grow. She founded a sanctuary within the village, an open space for children, widows, and the brokenhearted. She taught them that worth was not in beauty or wealth, but in spirit. Women who once hid their scars came to her, and she showed them how to see strength where shame had once lived. Generations later, people would speak of the crowned one not as a girl whose face was ruined, but as a leader whose scars became light. Mothers would tell their daughters, "Do not fear what marks you. Even fire can carve a crown." As for Zelika, her name became a warning. Parents whispered her story to children who grew jealous or bitter. "Beware the path of envy," they said, "for it burns deeper than fire." Yet, even then, Nia chose not to curse her aunt's memory. When asked about her, she would only answer, "She was my blood, and she fell." But her fall taught us all. Years passed. Nia grew into a woman of quiet power. The village thrived under her care. Fields flourished, children laughed freely, and peace stretched across the land. And still, her scars glowed faintly in the firelight, reminders that pain endured can become the root of strength. On her final night as elder, Nia returned to the sacred clearing where the ancestors had crowned her. She stood before the flame once more, her hair streaked with silver, her back straight with dignity. Lifting her face, she spoke softly into the night. "I was broken, but I was remade. I was cursed, but I was crowned. Let my story remind them. Envy destroys, but love endures." The fire flickered high, as if answering her. A hush fell across the village, as though the ancestors bowed once more to their chosen daughter. And so her story lived on. Scars turned into power, envy turned into downfall, love turned into legacy. Thought the crowned one had walked through fire, and from the ashes, she left behind a light that would never fade.